Welcome back to House of Horns. My name is Victor Corona, aka Victor Producer. And joining me, as always, is Gilbert Manzano. Gilbert was a beat reporter for the Las Vegas Raiders, the Los Angeles Rams, and now he's doing it for Sports Illustrated MMQB. He's an NFL staff writer there. Gilbert, we're finally here. It's week one. We're ready for some football. We've given our predictions for the season yesterday on the carne asada. So, how are you feeling about your picks, and how are you feeling about this NFL season as we gear up for week one?
Yeah, the picks. I don't know. I honestly didn't even know who to pick for the Super Bowl. I don't like that my AFC bracket is pretty chalky. I just don't see a lot of surprises happening on that side. I see more surprises on the NFC side, and we can maybe discuss it later. But yeah, but at least we finally got to game week. I'm so tired of all the offseason analysis and Vic, you know what? Some of the toughest things to do is to break down a game in week one because you don't know what the hell you're gonna see. Like the Rams starters didn't play in the preseason. Houston has like a whole new offense. They got some new coaches too. So it's really like you can't really go off of last year. So how do you even break down a game in week one when you don't know what to expect? So we're gonna try our best here on House of Horns to give you as best knowledge as we can. But hey, we're not know-it-alls. We don't think we know everything about Texans versus Rams. Let us know in the comments your thoughts about this matchup as well.
Yeah, and we already got a comment here from Danny. He says, "What perros?" I think he says, "What up, perros?" But it's all right, Daniel. It's good to have you on here, and yeah, we have we're gonna do our best to break down this matchup between the Texans and the Rams. There's a lot of familiarity between these two clubs. I feel like kind of getting into doing a little research between these two teams, but I'm gonna pick your brain. You're the one that covers the whole NFL, so you're someone great to kind of get into the whole Texan side of things, and we'll get into the Rams and where they're at. I mean, things look a little different than we're used to. The team is finally healthy going into a season, so all 53 players practiced today, so that's something new for them. But let's start off with an engagement question. We'll get to everything. We'll get into storylines. We'll get to the latest news, and of course, we'll give our prediction at the end of this preview, Gilbert. But let's get it started with an engagement question for everybody to kind of give us their feedback as well.
Yeah, for the engagement question of the week. What are the keys for a Rams victory? They're hosting the Houston Texans at SoFi Stadium. And the thing I think about the most for this matchup is both sides have so-so offensive lines. Maybe the Texans might have a crappier one, but we've never seen this group together. And we're going to talk about some of the injuries on the O line, some of the changes that they made on the O line for Houston. But the Rams offensive line, they're familiar names, but they weren't very good last year. They have some injuries. They have some concerns. But let me know what are the keys here because you got to stop Will Anderson Jr. and Daniel Hunter, and then you got to stop Jared Verse and Braden Fisk and Kobe Turner and Byron Young. So both sides have a lot of headaches to deal with the defensive front.
Yeah, and we'll get into all that. We have some comments on here. Jorge wants to know is what's up boats today. It is today, as far as I know. They said I
Uh,
think it was 6 o'clock.
in an hour? Yeah, like
Yeah,
6:30. So stick around, Jorge. Stay for
yeah,
both shows here and support the Compas here.
yeah. And then Daniel says Texans have a very solid defense. Not going to be an easy game. And he says his key is pass blocking. So
Oh yeah.
Jorge says protect Stafford's back literally and figuratively. So yeah, that'll be something to keep an eye on. Gilbert, let's get to the Rams news and notes segment plus some injury report. We'll talk about a little bit about the Texans. As I mentioned, no injuries going into the season. The only injured player, I guess, the only player on the injured list is Alaric Jackson, who has an illness. But we got the news this week from Sean McVay saying that both Alaric Jackson and Matthew Stafford are expected to start on Sunday versus the Texans. So he was a limited participant in practice today. Alaric Jackson was. And then for the Texans, you have three players that did not practice today. You have wide receiver Braxton Berrios and wide receiver Christian Kirk, both with hamstrings. And then Cam Robinson, who is a new addition to that offensive line, did not practice today because of an illness. And you also have Blake Fisher, who was limited with an ankle injury. So as I keep being reminded, Gilbert, this is going to be the healthiest we're going to see teams before all season long, because after this, everybody's going to be hurting, right?
Yeah, the one with the Texans and Cam Robinson, I don't think it's too alarming because he didn't win the left tackle job, so they're gonna rely on the draft picks that they got in the offseason. So maybe not a big deal, but you do want to have some depth on the offensive line, especially if it's a very long day for some of these rookies are coming in. And that's the thing with Houston, that they traded Lermy Tunsil. They say, you know what, let's kind of do some patchwork here. Let's get some veterans like Cam Robinson, but if he doesn't pan out, let's draft a rookie in the second round. The rookie won the left tackle job, so we'll see. But yeah, you're supposed to be healthy this time of year. The Christian Kirk injury is concerning because we know the Rams secondary is not that good. But again, I'm going off of last year. Maybe they're better, and Christian Kirk provides that speed element. So if he has a bad hammy, that's definitely not going to let you be at full speed for game time. So, the Houston is hurting a little more than the Rams, but the Rams obviously have some issues with Alaric Jackson, and you just don't know how he's going to be because he's had such a up and down training camp with the blood clots there.
Yeah, and that'll be something we'll talk about in storylines, and just kind of I'll get to I want to get to the question here from Daniel, and then Nino Pena says early Stafford MVP talks after week 1. So we'll see.
Mhm.
We'll get to that as well. Just continuing on. One more thing in terms of injury, the Texans safety CJ Gardner Johnson, who suffered a training camp knee injury, is expected to play Sunday versus the Rams. And then, of course, Joe Mixon. No Joe Mixon, he's out. He won't be available for the first 4 weeks for the Texans. So, you'll probably see a committee of running backs for the Texans in this. I will be interested to see how much Nick Chubb plays in this game. And you have Damian Pierce, you have other guys on there that they're going to rotate for the Texans.
Yeah, when you have a lot of offensive line questions, you want to have a solid running game. I don't know how they're going to produce one here, and that's a good thing for the Rams because they weren't very good stopping the run. Or maybe I keep thinking about the Saquon Barkley game. But yeah, Nick Chubb, I don't see him being the old Nick Chubb. Damian Pierce, they've been trying to make him a thing in Houston. It just never really happened. So yeah, that's a tough one. They're not having Joe Mixon, and Joe Mixon's already up there in age too. So who knows when he comes back? How much is going to help that backfield? I'm surprised they ignored it that much this whole time.
Yeah, no, the guy I really like in that backfield that I think is probably going to win the job, will be the starter later on in the season, is Woody Marks. And I know we got a fantasy question there. That's someone you want to stash on
Wow,
your team, Woody Marks.
is he the
So
guy from USC? I think I forget.
USC, yeah, I think he won't be ready to go. I think they're going to slowly bring him in, and then I think by the end of the season he'll probably be the starter, even over Mixon.
Oh, yeah, fourth round
Yeah,
pick, maybe.
yeah. So just keep an eye on him later on in the season, and if you have an extra roster spot on your fantasy team, I'd pick him up. And then Gilbert, just this is a kind of like a personal thing for me. We kind of talked about this. Rams players changing new jersey numbers after the 53-man roster announcement. You had Emmanuel Force is now number 1. Outside linebacker Nick Hampton is number 6. Josiah Stewart is number 10. And the one I was like, hey, you need to change your number because your number looks like a fullback. That is Jarquez Hunter. He went from number 35 now to a running back number, which is 27. And then a couple more is cornerback AJ Green, 21. And then linebacker Elias Neal went to 24. So my biggest thing was seeing Jarquez Hunter changing his number to a running back number. I thought that was good to see.
Yeah, I always wonder how this works because is it just rookies waiting for a veteran to get cut, or they just
Yeah.
feel like, oh, you know what, I want that number instead? And then if you like, no offense to Jarquez Hunter, nobody's buying his jersey unless you're related to him, but a guy like Matthew Golden, a first round pick for the Packers, he went from 22 to 0. What if you bought the jersey and it's number 22? Like, I would have been annoyed. So I don't know. I feel like that whatever number you get, starting in what, April, May, that's the number you keep all year. Like, no going back and forth. I don't know. To me, it seems a little weird, unless you're a guy that your jersey's not being sold outside your family.
Yeah, you're not gonna pay as a rookie. You don't make that much money. I mean, you're what, a third or fourth round pick. You're gonna wait until someone gets cut, and then you can go and get your number. I did see that. I think AJ Green had number 27, and then he changed to 21. I think it
Oh,
was him. And then Forbes also changed it. I was kind of. I mean, he's been with the team for a little bit over a year now, and he also changed it. He could have changed it before the season. So maybe number one wasn't available or something. I don't know. But I thought that was the biggest thing, was like the Jarquez Hunter one, because that 35 just did not look good on him. But I know nobody else cares. I just thought it was something cool from like it always happens around this time, when once you cut down to 53, you see a bunch of guys getting cut, and you see a bunch of the rookies who make the team kind of change their number. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes the team will tell them no, but for the most part, like you said, no one cares. Is he
yeah.
like, even Jorge
Jarquez
said we get.
Hunter's cousin, yeah, Jorge cares. Jarquez Hunter's cousin probably cares, who bought a 35 jersey and now saying, "Hey, man, where's my 27 jersey? I can't buy two."
Yeah. All right, Gilbert. Let's get to this Rams and Texans storylines. Let's start off with the Texans. Um, I think the biggest storyline, Gilbert, I think there's no secret about it with the Texans. It's their offensive line. I mean, they revamped their offensive line to. I mean, D'Amico Ryans continues to get asked about it. Today, he once again was asked about his confidence level for his revamped offensive line. He said, "Quote, quite frankly, I'm tired of talking about it. It's time to play. Let's see how our 5 matches up against a great defensive line." As you said, Gilbert, the Texans revamped their offensive line this offseason as they moved on from left tackle Laramie Tunsil, right guard Shaq Mason, and guard Kenton Green, or is it Kenyon Green? The
Yeah,
projectors start. Yeah. So now you brought in. You had the only remaining starter from last season is Titus Howard, and then you brought in a couple of rookies. You have guys like Jake Andrews at center, Lincoln Tomlinson at left guard, and then I know I'm going to butcher this name, Texan fans, but call me out. That's okay. Ariante Ersiri, something like that. He's
yeah.
going to play right tackle. So another rookie there, Gilbert. And last thing I'll say in terms of what why they're trying to improve that offensive line. Uh, the Texans offensive line allowed 52 sacks in 2024, which was the second highest in the NFL, Gilbert. So the coach has been asked about it. Everybody knows, like, you look at this team, they're a Super Bowl contender. Um, most people are picking them to win the AFC South, but I think the biggest question mark on this team is that offensive line. And I know this has been one of your main concerns for this team. So where do you start with them in terms of their offensive line?
Yeah.
And how much better do they need to get?
Honestly, if it wasn't for the offensive line and the mystery around it, and even if, and also too, if they had a better backfield, I would have been a lot higher on the Texans. I like the Texans last year, and for the most part, for a down year, they still did pretty well. They beat the Chargers. Sorry about that, Jorge. And they capped out. They went to the divisional round. Same thing as CJ Stroud's rookie year. So, is it really a down year? So if that's a down year, I want to see a better year from them. So let's see what they do. But I'll say this: I like the idea of revamping your offensive line, just blowing it up and starting over because it wasn't working. Even in CJ Stroud's rookie year, they couldn't run the football. They couldn't run block. And now in CJ Stroud's second year, they couldn't pass block. So the times they needed something needed to change, and it was time for a change. And I just don't agree with the players they brought in. It kind of felt like the Browns quarterback competition where they say, "Hey, are you 6'6" and 300 pounds? Come on down to Houston. We have tryouts, open tryouts here." and let's find the best five combination. And honestly, I don't even know if they have. And D'Amico Ryans is spot on. Like, let's just play the damn games because he probably has a good idea of what he think is a good combination. But then when you're facing Jared Verse, you're probably going to be questioning if you found the right five. So that could quickly derail your season. Like, even if you have a good defense, which you do in Houston, and they got some good skill players, but and I really like CJ Stroud, but like I just don't know what to expect from his O line. I think we'll find out early on in the game. And like I mentioned, the rookie, second round pick, I don't want to butcher his name either, Ursuri. I don't know how to say his last name. I think he won the left tackle job. So, sometimes it's good if guys that you draft you're just unsure about, so you bring in guys like Cam Robinson to be a safety net, and then you see him in training camp, like, oh, okay, he's fine, he can hold his own. But holding your own in camp is not the same thing as holding your own against Jared Verse and Byron Young and that whole front there. So it's just a mystery, and I know D'Amico Ryan is annoyed about it. But these are valid questions, like what the hell is going to happen, and I have no idea.
Yeah, especially when you give up 52 sacks. I mean, you got to protect CJ Stroud. He's still on that rookie contract. And if you have aspirations of taking the next step, Gilbert, which I think this team can. I mean, I picked them to go to the Super Bowl this year. I just, part of it too is just because I'm kind of annoyed with everybody picking either the Bills or the Ravens, which is they're good picks. I'm not gonna lie. It's just, sometimes you want to be a little different as well. But when I look at this team, in terms of they have everything that you would want. They've surrounded CJ Stroud with, good weapons. I think the biggest thing for this team, as we already kind of got into, is the offensive line. And I think part of it too is this was the reason why they got rid of Bobby Slowick, the offensive coordinator, and they brought in Nick Caley. You know, um, I think as you look at, guys who have been under the tree with under the McVay tree, is they can do less, or even the Shanahan system, they can do less with offensive linemen. You don't need like great offensive linemen. Of course, I know that Shanahan has Trent Williams, but outside of that, it's just pretty much average offensive linemen, and then you kind of just you let your scheme do the work here, and I think that's what the Texans are hoping for. I think
No.
this one thing I can tell you too, Gilbert, is that I expect this team to pass a lot more than they did the last few years under Bobby Slowick. Bobby Slowick was terrible in terms of he just did not refuse to go away from running the ball on first and second down. They were one of the worst teams in football the last couple of years in terms of running the ball on first and second down. And so that contributed to being in third and longs and having CJ Stroud having to dig them out of a terrible situation, and that's why you ended up with 52 sacks. So I think part of it too is that you bring in Nick Caley, like I said, and you're hoping to run a little bit more 11 personnel. I am also interested, Gilbert. I want to ask you this: whether or not you think that he'll run more of the Sean McVay system, or he'll run more of the Josh McDaniel system, because he was with New England for a few years there under Josh McDaniels.
Yeah, obviously it could be a combination there, but again, it goes back to the offensive line, and but D'Amico Ryan's had the right approach. Again, things weren't working. He had to blow up the offensive line. He had to fire the OC, and watching Bobby Slowick operate was very frustrating because that first year he couldn't figure out how to run the Shanahan running scheme. They couldn't do it, and it really put more pressure on the rookie. CJ Stroud delivered, but it put a lot of pressure on him. And then the second year, it seemed like Bobby Slowick said, "Okay, I figured it out." Joe Mixon, he came in to help me out run this zone run blocking scheme here, and he just kept running the football way too much, and he wouldn't find the good balance. And to me, with Nick Caley, is finding a little bit of everything you've learned in your background. And you know, I was reading Albert Bree's story on Nick Caley, where former Ram Ben Skoranek texted CJ Stroud saying, "You know what? You got a good one right there. This guy knows what he's doing. You're going to do well under his scheme." And that's a wild card too. Like, Nick Caley knows the Sean McVay system. He knows the personnel. He knows a lot of the players that are here. So maybe he could scheme up something to let that offensive line figure out their chemistry, their footing, what to do, and just have your skill players dictate the pace and the pre snap read. And That's why, like, honestly, if the offensive line holds up, the Houston stock in my book is going to skyrocket because I like their skill players. I really like Nico Collins. I want to see what the rookies do, and Jaden Higgins and Jalen Noel. I want to see a healthy season from Christian Kirk. He's not healthy right now, but I think he adds a different element. It's a little under the radar, and that's maybe where Sean McVay's philosophy comes in: the 11 personnel and just having a bunch of mismatches in the pre-snap. So Josh McDaniels is a little more of the old school. He had Tom Brady for so many years, obviously, but I think CJ Stroud is an old school quarterback. He's a pocket passer. So the options are there are a bunch of them. It's just what can the O line do? And then again, you throw in the running game. There's just too many question marks on it. And I don't know what to expect, but I want to like Houston. It's just it's hard to get behind them.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, both of these offensive lines, I think, might struggle in this game because both of these defensive these fronts are just gonna either eat or whatever offensive line can hold up the most is probably gonna be the team that ends up winning this game. And so yeah, kind of something to keep in mind there with the Texans. I think it's going to be their theme the whole year is whether or not this offensive line can hold up the whole season, and make if they make a run, it'll be because of this offensive line. And then kind of just getting into it with D'Amico Ryans. I mean, he's in his third year now. Going into his third year, back to back 10-7 seasons. They win the South. They've won a playoff game each of his first two seasons. And you look at this defense, Gilbert. You got last year they broke franchise records with 49 sacks. You had 106 TFLs. I mean, this defense looks legit. 19 interceptions as well. Just what is the state of the Texans going into year three of D'Amico Ryan's regime? And Nick Casario, the GM, they've done some good things. I guess at the same time, what would you like to see them? Is it just fixing the offensive line, or where are you at with them?
Yeah, Houston is in this kind of this stage where, like, the Buccaneers are in the NFC South, where, like, you have a good team, but you're beating up on a crappy division, so you get a free pass to the playoffs. But, like, how good are you when you get with the big boys? And it kind of has, like, the Buccaneers, for their ceiling is always division around, and that's the same with the Texans. It's a division around, and to compare these two teams, I think the Buccaneers, if you put them in any other division, I think they'll be competitive. I don't know if I can say that about the Texans just yet, because I just don't know. Again, the O line, I don't know. I don't know how the rookie receivers are going to do. But I do commend them for trying something different, because I think they figure out they've met their ceiling, like, divisional round, and you can't play with the Bills and the Ravens and the Chiefs. And you could beat up on the Chargers, beat up on the Broncos, beat up on the Steelers, or whatever, that middle tier of the AFC. They're on top of that, but not by a lot. You're not in that elite class in the AFC. So what do? You blow up the offensive line. What do? You hire a new OC. What do? You bring in more skilled players. So I do like that approach. I think they a lot of teams get complacent, and the Bills got in trouble with that. The Ravens got in trouble with that. And you can't beat the Chiefs because you keep thinking, like, well, we have the quarterback. Let's just keep doing and trying again. And they also went for it last year when they got Stephon Diggs. We all remember the hype that Houston team got, and they're kind of like the Commanders, right? Or the Commanders are this year, where they got
Yeah,
a rookie quarterback and they
that's
go
a good
all in.
comp.
So they're trying different things here, and I do praise them. It's just I don't know what the offense. Now the defense, that could be a top 5 unit. I don't know if they're number one. And honestly, I think I'd rather have the Houston defense than the Denver defense. The Denver defense getting a lot of hype. They don't have a Will Anderson Jr. They don't even have a Daniil Hunter. I'd rather have those two guys than Nick Bonito and the other guys on that defensive front there. So obviously, they have a Sertan, but so do the Texans. They have a good cornerback in Derek Stingley Jr., who got paid a bunch of money. I think it was 3 years, $90 million. They got a bunch of good DBs, some good linebackers. They're loaded with playmakers on defense. So to me, they could definitely cause a lot of problems for the LA Rams offensively. When you have Matthew Stafford with a bad back, you have your left tackle coming back from blood clots. They could easily derail this offense too. So this is why I give Houston a good chance to win this game. That defense could definitely cause problems for um, the Rams here. And the thing I'll say about the Rams is, like, eventually they're going to need some speed here. But I like that they have guys who go sideline to sideline a little more of a slow it down pace, because Devontae Adams and Puka Nacua are going to get so many targets that you don't want to take a bunch of deep shots against Derek Stingley in this defense where you get in trouble. Maybe you play tempo game, you play keep away to throw off that pass rush where you have so many weapons, and you're a lot of rhythm and timing passes. I think Devontae and Puka Nacua are going to be good for that. But again, it's like a chess match here with this offense with the Rams and the Texans defense, and they're just so loaded that I want to see what the Rams do to counter that, and that's my guess there is to play the long game and play keep away to throw off this pass rush a little bit.
Yeah, and I mean, it'll be interesting to see if Sean McVay finally commits to running the 12 personnel and is able to kind of run the ball here, just to kind of, like you said, and run a little bit more of a screen game. I feel like the screen game has been missing from this Rams offense, just to kind of counter that speed that you're going to see off the edge, with the Texans. So there's a lot of possibilities with kind of to throw the Texans off here, but man, it's going to be a great chess match between D'Amico Ryans and Sean McVay, and then what does Chris Shula have for Nick Caley as well? They've been in coaching rooms together, and how do they go about matching each other? So that'll be kind of something to keep an eye on. But before we move on to the storylines here for the Rams, Gilbert, we had a couple comments. Daniel Calderon says, "Do you guys have a fantasy football league?" Yeah, we're both in one together. We're with a bunch of friends, and then I'm only doing one other one. So I have two this year. Gilbert, how many fantasy football leagues are you in this year?
I only have two, and the one that we're in is the one I pay attention the most. But I try to pay attention to the other one too. And we were playing each other week
Yeah,
one
we're
in our
playing
league,
each other
so
week one.
that should be interesting. I had my draft for my other league yesterday, and that's a keeper league. And I think somebody got Puka Nacua his rookie year in the 13th round, so they've been holding on to him for a while. But yeah, that one was a tough one because what did I get? I bet it on Christian McCaffrey and I kept them. And then I saw the how the keeper draft played out, and I feel good about it because everybody went with wide receivers early, and I'm like, okay, I'll take a running back. Why not? I know. Check out the interview with Michael Fabiano on Compas on the Beat. He said stay away, but I did it. Why not? But that's my other league.
Yeah, I have I picked up Christian McCaffrey in the first round, and then when
That's
I
right.
saw
Yeah.
that interview, I was like,
Yeah.
I
If
mean,
Vic did it, I was like, you know what? I could do it too in my other league. I'll copy Victor.
yeah. Gilbert, your Tocayo Dixon says, excited for another great season of football. Always enjoy your content. Go Rams. He does have a question. He
Nice.
says, how much will Landman improve the linebackers, especially versus the run?
Hey, Nate Landman, captain. He must be the real deal. He was a freaking
Yeah.
captain on the Rams already. So uh I don't know. We do know that the Rams like to be cheap at linebacker, inside linebacker, and they want to find a gem. And maybe Nate Landman is that gem. I don't know. Again, we keep trying to talk about Zach Vaughn and how that helped out the Eagles defense. It really, when Zach Vaughn, was unleashed in Philadelphia, it really helped that defense get to a different gear. I'm not saying that's going to happen here, but to be captain and then seeing him at the scrimmage against the Saints, and it's the Saints, so let's keep that in mind. They're not very good. I could see, I do see why they made him a captain. I do see why he got a starting job. I just don't know how good he's going to be, but he seems like he could definitely hold his own and control the pace in the middle.
Yeah. And, he's been the talk of camp. I know the majority of the news has been on Stafford and his back, but in terms of a positive, it's been Nate Landman and them controlling the run. That's been like one of the things that has kind of caught my attention. I know Puna 4 is there, and make sure you check out Fernando Ramirez or Copa, who hosts with Gilbert Compas on the Beat on Mondays and Tuesdays. He has a story with Puna Ford coming out this weekend for the Sporting Tribune. So make sure you check it out. They're expecting him to not just be a not just be a run stopper, Gilbert, but it sounds like they're gonna try to get him to be a little bit more of a pass rusher from the inside. So that'll be something to keep an eye on.
Yeah, we'll see. We put him forward. They have been hyping him up as a pass rusher. I don't see it. I think by now you know who this guy is. He's a run stopper. But and also you don't need an extra pass rusher because I think Braden Fisk and Kobe Turner are so good at that that he needs to help out in the run defense. And like I've said all off season, I also want to see Kobe Turner and Braden Fisk improve the run defense. So we'll see how they all do. But that's a good approach to have. Is that expect every player on your defensive line to do a little bit of everything. You can't just be a specialist. I know Puno Ford has made a living being a specialist. I know that's why he got brought into the LA Rams is to help the run defense. But hey, the more you do, the better. But at this stage in his career, I don't know. I'm not gonna count. What's a good number? Is it 5 or 6 sacks? I'll say he'll go under that.
Yeah. I just you want him to be a you want him to stop the run. That's why you brought him in. I understand that. And it hasn't just been Fernando who's talked about it. I've heard also Eric, he's Eric Williams who, covers the both the NFC and AFC West for Fox Sports. He was talking about that they see him also as a pass rusher too. So we'll see. I mean, I'm interested, but in terms of Nate Landman, he's been great in terms of being the green dot, which I thought I after you lost Ernest Jones last season and you traded him away, having one of your secondary people be the green dot just didn't seem right. And now with the middle linebacker or linebacker being your green dot, I think it just makes sense. And good on him for um, becoming the captain, like you said, and meshing with this team. And so that's been great to see. All right, Gilbert, let's get to um let's start off with the offense here for the Rams, and we'll I think that's the biggest thing in terms of the storyline. The biggest storyline for the Rams, of course, is whether or not they can keep Stafford healthy the whole season and how they're going to manage his back and all that. We know that, but I think in terms of on the field, I think the key is how quickly the Stafford mesh with the rest of that unit, and the same thing with Alaric Jackson. I think how those guys are able to mesh right away. I think it's going to be huge because they haven't practiced all training camp like for the most part. It's been what this week that they've all been together, and so how quickly that they built that chemistry with Devontae Adams and Puka Nakua, like. And then the other thing you've talked about, and I thought that was a great point by you, was that you said that they had OTAs, where they were able to uh, build some chemistry there. So how quickly does this offense? No preseason, and we'll get into that the whole preseason thing. But Gilbert, in terms of how do you see this offense, with Stafford, and what is the key for this offense to kind of start on the on the right foot this season?
Yeah, I guess the biggest mystery here is will Stafford force feed Devontae Adams to keep him happy? And and even if it's force feeding two players, I could definitely see Stafford making Puka Nakua and Devontae Adams uh, happy and making them future focal points of the offense. But you don't want to play two-man game. Matthew Stafford is at his best when he's spreading the ball around. Yeah, Puka Nakua got his targets last year. Yeah, Stafford got his target. Sorry, Cooper Kupp got his targets the year before that. And yeah, we know that Stafford likes to force feed his star players, Calvin Johnson in Detroit. But I bet if you look at all these offenses, like he had other guys that stepped up. And my concern with them is like maybe now that he has two star wide receivers, that he just focuses on two, and then maybe it's too much on his mind. We're like, okay, I got to feed both of these guys, and you're not keeping the tight ends involved, like Higbee and the Ricky Ferguson. You're not keeping Jordan Whittington involved. You're not keeping Tutu Atwell involved, who never really gets involved, but he's on the roster, whatever. Uh,
Yeah,
you're not utilizing more of the other wide receivers to play the true 11 personnel. You're not utilizing the options you have at tight end to play 12 personnel. So to me, trying to keep two-star receivers happy, I don't know, and maybe it's a stretch to say that I'm not sure if Stafford's ever done this before because he had Puka Nakua and Cooper Kupp. But let's be real. Cooper Kupp was on his way down or out. He was not when Puka Nakua arrived in 2023. Cooper Cup was already on the decline. It wasn't like, okay, he's coming off the Triple Crown 2021. How can you feed two-star players? He got hurt in 22, and then he's healthy here, but he's also blocking here a little more. It is what it is. Puka Nakua's show. Devontae Adams, at least to me, showed that he still could be the guy. He had some great games for the Jets. They sucked and they lost a lot of games, but he still has a lot of talent. But hey, maybe Devontae Adams comes in and he's starting to decline and he's a for sure number two. And then you don't think about it as much. But a good problem to have, and it could be a problem, and it's a good one. Is Devontae still is a star, and you're maybe leaving out Puka Nacua, or you're just force feeding both guys too much, where you become predictable, and you're playing this slow game where you're not scoring fast enough. That could also be a concern.
Yeah, and we saw last year this offense really struggle, Gilbert. And I think that that's the other thing that people forget is that for most of the season, and part of the reason they started, was it 1-4? Um, it was because the offense struggled, and especially down in the red zone. And so as you mentioned, I think part of it too, and I brought this up as soon as they signed Devontae Adams, I said, is he going to be willing to do the dirty work, and how are they going to use him? Are they going to have him moving around so that way they don't have him be doing the dirty work? Does that mean Jordan Whittington is the third receiver when those two guys are in the same formation, so that way he can do some of the blocking up ahead for Devontae Adams and Puka Nacua? So there's a lot of question marks here with this offense. I know everybody is and rightfully so is concern about the health of Matthew Stafford. But I think also is, how is this team gonna mesh offensively? I think we still have those questions. It's not, and we'll get into the fact that this offense didn't play in the preseason, and we've seen this team struggle to get off the gate. It seems like McVay treats the first 4 weeks as their preseason, and he might not admit it, but that's been the case. And so that's the other thing is, how quickly can this team kind of put it together? Because I have a lot of question marks too with this offense. It's either going to be really good or they might struggle there, Gilbert.
Yeah, and do you try to get Blake Corum involved? Do you try to get Jarquez Hunter involved, or just keep going with Kyron Williams because you paid the guy? There's a lot that maybe we're not looking at besides the wide receiver factor, and we've talked about the tight end position for a good amount here. Maybe something that at least I feel like I've talked about is like you can't just assume Jackson's gonna be healthy from the blood clots, or at least like the good news is he seems like he's healthy from that, and that's great. But how about conditioning wise? How about football shape? After missing so much time, is he ready to go? And you're facing a very ferocious defensive front. Is Rob Havenstein actually ready in game shape? He's an older player who's been dealing with injuries. You could hide it in
His
training camp.
shoulder.
No one's really going after you. Yeah,
Both
two
he's had
shoulder.
both his shoulders cleaned.
Yeah, two operations on the shoulder. I'm I'm pretty sure Coleman Shelton's getting the start. I don't know that's for sure,
Yes, he's
Vic.
going to be the starting center.
And he wasn't very good with the Bears, but he was good with the Rams. So it's a lot of unknown here for this offense. And on paper they look good, but when you really look at the other side of it, it's like, yeah, but we'll see. And that's the beauty about finally playing these games here in week one.
Yeah. And just kind of the other thing too, Gilbert, that kind of going over the Rams here. Can they finally, you know, uh get kick the season off on a good note? They've struggled, is this the season that the Rams get off to a good start? And to give credit to the reporters, they asked McVay, before the preseason. So just for people that don't remember, in 2023 the Rams began the season 3-6. Then in 2024 the team started even slower, holding a 1-4 record after going in. Remember, they went 1-4 going into the bye there. McVay was asked before the preseason if rest is the reason for the slow starts, and he
Mm.
said, "quote I don't, but I can see why it would be a convenient narrative." He said, "Whatever I say is going to be an excuse. what we do is try to believe in our approach. We try to be able to simulate a lot of those settings as much as we possibly can. I think it's about playing well, executing at the high level. I think health is a big important is I think health is a big important part of it. Ultimately, I understand where people would question it based on starting 3-6 or 1-4. I'm always going to try to make the decisions, and we're always going to try to make decisions that we feel like are the best for the collective and for our football team. I understand that it's not for everybody, but there's a lot of thought that goes into what we think is best. I'm hopeful that we'll start the right way. We have a great challenge against a team that we have a ton of respect. So, Gilbert, is this the season that the Rams get off to a good start? And I'm going to give you the first 8 games. They have they play the Texans at home. They're at the Titans, at the Eagles, home to the Colts, home to the 49ers on a short week, at the Ravens, at the Jaguars in London, and home to the Saints.
I guess my question is, if they start 2-2, is that a slow start, or like
As
would it
long
be?
as they're not 3 games under 500 in the first 8 games, it's not a slow start, I would say.
Yeah, I feel like 2-2 is not the best, but it is better, like you mentioned, for this team. So if 2-2 is acceptable, because I definitely could see 2-2 for this team. I think the Texans are going to be a problem. Obviously, you got the Eagles, you got the Gimmies and the Colts and the Titans, but you never know. Maybe they lose one of the Gimmies and they beat the Eagles. Who the heck knows? But it's an easier schedule than most year, so I said they could get it done. And again, I'm not as high on the 49ers, but hey, a short week against a divisional rival, that could be tough. And then you got to play the Baltimore Ravens, but then you get the Jaguars. It's kind of like a very up and down schedule where, like, yeah, you won't be 3 games under 500, but you'll be at 500 into what, middle October, late October. And I don't know if that's good or not, but for this team, I guess it is, right?
Yeah, and well, I think if you're just either you know one or one game above 500 after or 2 games above 500 after 8 games, I think it's not a slow start, and so I just think you have to take care of business against the teams that you're supposed to win, and then you kind of try to take an upset there here and there against either the Eagles or the Ravens, because I'm pretty sure they're going to be underdogs against both of those teams. So
Yeah, even if you get to 3-3, if you do that, you get the Jaguars and the Saints back to back, and then you're 5-3. So that's pretty good.
yeah,
That'd be pretty nice for this team.
yeah, and like I said, I think their schedule it starts out pretty nice for them, even with the Eagles and the
Yeah,
Ravens in there and the Texans and that like
man,
and
they always
so
get the Eagles in September. I feel like I don't know why.
yeah,
Well, I guess
there
not
was
last year, right? There was a Sunday night football game. I forget. Maybe
yeah, and this is I think this is the first time in a couple of years that the game's actually in Philly. It's been in
I
L.A.
didn't even see that.
Yeah,
Yeah, you're right.
yeah. Yep.
It
So
has been
we'll
at
see.
SoFi.
We'll see what happens there. But yeah, I think it's important for this team to start off quick this year, and especially because if they want I feel like if you're gonna contend with a lot of these teams in the NFC, you're gonna have to get home field advantage. I feel like, and we'll see. I think part of it they need to get off to a good start and then get home field advantage. I feel like win
Yeah,
12 to 13 games, especially with that schedule.
that's a good point. Especially you kind of have a little bit of an all-in mentality when you brought in Devontae. You've been in the playoffs the last 2 years, and you've only gone on divisional round. You got to start thinking about how to make a deeper playoff run, and it starts with having good starts and a good record and being like a top 2 seed. So yeah, good point. These games have to matter. You can't just play catch up and then be a wild card team or a 4 seed as a divisional winner.
Yeah, I think it's time if you're going to take that next step and be a Super Bowl contender, you have to win your division and do it by winning more than 10 games. You got to win 11 or 12 games. We have a question here before we get to our betting lines here. Gilbert says, which Rams do you expect to have breakout years on offense and defense, Gilbert?
Whew. Let's see. I don't know. I kind of want Jordan Whittington to be a thing, but I don't know if he'll get enough targets to be a thing. I just didn't see enough of Blake Corum. Offense is pretty tough, and I'll go with the rookie. I hate going with rookie breakout players. I tend to prefer second year, third year guys, but I go with Terrence Ferguson. He looked good in that preseason game, and I think when you get drafted in the second round, I think Sean McVay wants to have a big feature role for him, especially all the rumors that he wants to have more of a pass catching tight end. Tyler Higbee's a little bit on the decline, so I don't know how bold that is offensively, but I'll go with the rookie, and then defensively. Oh man, that's a tough one.
It's
Oh,
there. We talked about
well,
him.
well, I don't know if we did, but I like Cam Kitchens, the second year
Okay.
safety. He was like a ball hawk playmaker, but not consistent. And maybe this could be the year where he puts it all together, where he's making impact plays and being consistent, and maybe becomes a Pro Bowl safety. I think the team really values him and sees a lot of potential for him. But who was yours?
I was gonna say I'll go with Blake Corum, running back, on offense, and then I don't know. I guess Nate
Oh, Lanman,
Landman.
yeah,
You
yeah.
know,
I don't know.
I feel like
I'm trying to stay away from the Zach Vaughn comparison. I feel like we're hyping him too much. I don't know.
yeah. Hey, he asked for a breakout player, and so
Yeah, could
I'm
be.
gonna give
Good
you
one.
one. Yeah, so there you go. We have some Texans fans in here, which is awesome. Mellow Mike says, what's good? Brand fans looking forward to a great game
Yeah.
on Sunday." He says, "Any Texan questions, feel free to ask." Um, yeah, we kind of, if you want to go back a little
Yeah.
bit, we got into some storylines for the Texans. We talked
Melo,
about
tell us your starting five in the offensive line because it's hard to figure out with this O line. If you got a good idea, put it in
yeah.
the comments. And just I want to double check my notes here.
Yeah, because that was the biggest takeaway, and then also as well, what in terms of the Texans, what's the next step for them? They finished 10-7 the last two seasons, so we kind of want to know what is the next step for D'Amico Ryan and for them. As you as a fan, let us know what is the
Yeah.
next step for the Texans. They're in a pretty, as you called it, a pretty easy division there. So,
Mhm.
I think this is going to be a good matchup, and to see where they're at, and the Texans have a great defense, and I guess the biggest question is their offensive line, Mellow Mike. Yeah. So there you
Okay.
go. There's say at left tackle, Tomlinson at left guard, Andrews, Ingram at right
Okay.
guard, and then
Yeah.
Howard at right tackle.
Yeah. So yeah, the rookie did win that left tackle job over Cam Robinson. So yeah, I think this is the best approach. I know Howard has some flexibility inside outside. They're going with the right tackle position. So hey, this is the best starting five for D'Amico Ryans. Let's see it. Like you said, Victor, he's tired of talking about it. So
Yeah.
these are the fives. Let's see what they do with Jared Verse and those guys.
Yeah, and it's gonna be a good. It's a good matchup to start off. I know for the especially when you have a quarterback in Matthew Stafford who hasn't practiced much, and same thing with Alaric Jackson. I think this might be a game Gilbert kind. As we get into our predictions here. I think it might be a game where both teams are going to try to run the ball, but I feel like the Texans might try to pass the ball a lot more than we think. So like Nick Caley, I think, has something up his sleeve against Chris Shula. But Gilbert, the
Yeah.
Rams are 2.5 point favorites. This line dropped about a point in the last couple of weeks. It was at 3.5. The over
Wow.
under is 43.5. um, what's the right side of this line, Gilbert?
Yeah, I don't know if it went up because I'm seeing a lot of threes here, so I rather take a three than a 2.5, or at least for the
Yeah.
Texans' sake. But I'm sure it'll go back and forth here. And like you mentioned, it was at 3.5, but I'm seeing a lot of threes. Maybe a lot of money started pouring in on the Rams at 2.5, and it went up a little bit for threes to kind of ease up on that money there. But again, I'm gonna do my betting story at Sports Illustrated, which comes out sometime tomorrow. And the early money is on the Rams. I think I was told in terms of money and tickets, it's 3-1 on the Rams. And to me, I think Houston deserves a little more respect here. Uh,
Oh,
I wish it was 3.5 for a road team. I would have been all over that one. At 2.5 and 3, you start thinking a field goal game for a pretty close game here. And that's pretty standard for a road team to come in, a good road team. So um, maybe it's a good line here, but to me, I'm thinking more of like I could see a straight up win for Houston. I could see an upset here, so I would take the points here. And at this point, I would take the money line on the Texas too as well.
I would say the same thing. If you're betting here, like we're not talking about in terms of just betting, I think the Texans money line makes the most sense here. If you're just a betting person, I think that
Yeah.
2.5, as you pointed out, I mean, you get 3 points for being a home team, so that just
Yep.
tells you the respect that Vegas is giving the Texans here coming on the road, and I think having a couple of things, like not knowing everything that you need to know about the injury with Stafford and Alaric Jackson not practicing, I think that has a big influence on it. But
Yeah.
honestly, I think this is going to be one of those games that goes back and forth, and it might be closer than we think, or it could be one of those where I don't want to say it, Gilbert, but it could be one of those blowout games that we saw where the Bills came in here a couple years ago and
Oh,
just blew out the Rams. So
yeah.
I wouldn't doubt just because the Rams haven't really played together. I mean, none of their players and I as we talked about, McVay uses the first 4 games as a preseason, and that's I know that he said that that's just him making that people are going to say he's making excuses, but that's just a fact. They've started off slow, but let's get to our predictions here. We have one prediction already in here, and it's from Jesse Bonilla. He has the Rams winning 35 to
Oh,
17 over
oh
the
wow.
Texans here. He's going with the blowout. Where are you at, Gilbert? And then I want to get to the comments here by Mellow Mike.
Yeah. People won't like this answer here, but I'm gonna go Houston here for the upset. And it's tough because I don't know what to expect from the Houston offensive line. And again, you're dealing with Jarrett Verse and crew. Same thing on the other side. I get the Rams O line maybe is better. I'm not even sure about that. But they got to deal with that defensive front. These two fronts could create problems and disrupt the offense for Stafford and for Stroud. Uh, but to me, I go back to the other Rams' weakness is say Nick Haley does figure out how to work around the offensive line. Do the Rams have enough DBs to cover Nico Collins? Can they, I felt better about the bet here if it was Christian Kirk on the field, but he's dealing with a hammy injury. We'll see. Maybe Melo Mike can let me know a little more about the injury there. Maybe he will be available. But burners are a problem for this Rams secondary. And now you throw in the summer hype of Jaden Higgins, who, I'm hoping does big things because I stashed him in 2 of my fantasy leagues. Jaden Higgins, Jalen Noel, we got to know at the NFLPA, great guy. He's also a little bit of a burner. So to me, and they still got a Dalton Schultz, the tight end. So they got some weapons there. So I don't know if I could trust this Ram secondary. So and CJ Stroud's a baller. He's coming home. Like we let's not forget about that. He's gonna be playing in front of his friends and family. He grew up in Rancho Cucamonga, a little far from LA, but they're all gonna make that drive. So to me, I think CJ Stroud's underrated. Winning 2 playoff games in back-to-back years. He has a lot of respect in my books. So to me, I'm gonna go with the upset here and taking Houston.
Yeah, and I mean,
Oh, and I need a score,
honestly,
right?
yeah,
I'll go barely over 24-20.
24-20. And then you have Mellow Mike here saying Texas in a close game, 24-19.
Mm.
And I think I'm gonna roll with you as well, Gilbert. I thought,
Wow.
before the injury to the back injury to Matthew Stafford, I really like their chances of winning this game. But with like I said, you go back, the Rams haven't won an opener, Gilbert, since 2021. That's the year they went to the Super Bowl. The last few years they got blown out by the Bills. They lost. I was trying to remember who they lost to the last 2 years, but they I remember the blowout to the Cardinals. So they haven't won a season opener since 2021, and I've talked about it. This team's going to start off slow because McVay likes to take use the first 4 games as a preseason for him because he doesn't like using his starters in the preseason, and I feel like it's going to take a little bit of time for this team to mesh. They're going to win the division. It doesn't mean that I don't think they're going to be good this season. I just think that there's a lot of things that this team needs to come together as well. I still have my concerns with that secondary. I know a lot of people are think that, hey, things are going to be good with that secondary. I still have I still have. And look, the only way I see the Rams winning this game, Gilbert, is if that front four just dominates. Like you see the same thing you saw against the Vikings and the Eagles, where they just have like 15 sacks combined. That's the only way I see them winning this game. But I just don't see it. I'll go with the Texans 27-20. I have the over here. And that's why I like the money line here for the Texans. I feel like a lot of people are kind of sleeping on the Texans and what they've been able to do. I feel like they're ready to go and they're ready to take that next step. And but yeah, I'm with you here. I have the
Yeah.
Texans winning this game.
Maybe that's good news for Rams fans because we got the jinx here.
Yep.
Both of us are going with the Texans, so we'll see. Maybe we pull on the reverse jinx here. But hopefully, maybe that means Mellow Mike's going to stick around and give us a like here or a
Yep.
subscribe to support the channel because we're going with Houston.
Yep.
But we like to keep it real on the show on House of Horns, and we're going to give you all the info from both sides, Rams and Texans, and same thing next week, Rams against Titans. So, yeah, I think Houston is an underrated team. They're not getting as much hype as last year. Maybe that's a good thing here. So we'll find out on Sunday.
Yeah, and then we'll have a post game show, and you guys can call us out and say, "See,
Yep.
you guys were wrong," And I'm sure Thanks, Mellow Mike. He gave us a like, so
Oh,
it's
appreciate it.
good to see that. But yeah, I still like the Rams this season. I still like what they can do, but we need to see it. And we try to be honest with everybody here, and I can't wait to see what happens. I'm just happy that we have football's finally here. We have football tomorrow. You have you have the Eagles and Cowboys on Thursday. You have the Chargers and Chiefs on Friday, and then the whole slate on Sunday. So we're ready to watch some real football. No more, hey, this rumors and stuff going on. Finally, we get to see some real football, Gilbert.
Yeah, and just a quick promo before we get out of here. Again, check out everything we're doing on Compas on the Beat. That's our other channel here. Hopefully, you enjoy everything that we're doing at House of Horns. But we got a lot of stuff on Compas on the Beat, and we share a bunch of that stuff here on this channel, House of Horns. So yeah, I don't know. It would be would it. I'll ask you, Vic. Would it be maybe a good idea to post our matchup show on every channel, House of Horns or What's Up Boats, or keep it a Compas? We'll discuss that, but. That way it'll be easier. But you want to know about the entire NFL, we do a lot of stuff on Compas on the Beat, and we're gonna start this new show. We're called it Game Week with the Compas, and we just pretty much talk about every matchup on the schedule for the NFL and give our picks and our 2 cents there.
Yep. So yeah, I mean, I'm ready to go, Gilbert. I've been
Yeah.
waiting. It's been a long off season, a lot of talking and stuff, and now we get to watch football. We'll be back with the post game show, depending on Gilbert's time. We'll let you guys know. Yeah, we know we we know about Will Anderson Jr. there.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's one to definitely to look out for.
yeah,
But
number
yeah, we got to
50.
get going here. So again,
Yep.
check out everything on the channel, and we'll see everybody on Sunday to recap Texans versus LA Rams. We'll see if we're right or we're very wrong, and let us know in the comments. And also, if you're watching a replay, let us know your prediction for this matchup here. And feel free to call us out. Like, oh, you guys don't know what the hell you're talking about. That's
Yep.
okay too. But it's
Yep.
time to get going. Ya nos vamos, pues. Vámonos.